Hi everyone, welcome back. This is going to be part 2 of our Smart Start unit. This will be the end of the Smart Start. Last week we covered one-step equations and PEMDAS, right? The order of operations. Now we're going to be looking at two-step equations and multi-step equations. So just getting a little bit more difficult, and we're going to look at a special type of multiplication in multi-steps. Okay, so our central question for the first set of notes is going to be, how do I solve two-step equations? So when you're approaching any type of two-step equation, know that it's going to be two steps, right? It might be multiplication, division, or subtraction, okay, to get a variable by itself. So you should always be asking yourself, right here, ask yourself, what is being done to the variable in the original equation? And then how do you undo those operations, right? So how do you undo those? We'll use inverse operations. In reverse order. So looking at example number 1, we see that 5x plus 9 equals 24. Okay, so we're trying to find what x is. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the inverse operation of addition, which is subtraction, which would cancel this, giving my x by itself, 24 minus 9. So I did it to one side of the equal sign. It has to be done to the other. 24 minus 9 equals 15. Then we did the inverse operation of multiplication. Remember, there's imaginary little multiplication between those two spots. The inverse operation of multiplication is division. So when we divide 5 by 5, we get 1. So we have really just 1x. We did it to one side, so we have to do it to the other. 15 divided by 5 would be 3. So our answer is x equals 3. Okay? So they just get a little bit more complicated. So in class next week, we'll cover one-step equations, two-step equations, and multi-step equations. And we'll just kind of build off of that. So example number 2, we got v plus 9 divided by 3 equals 8. So this is all, so the quantity v plus 9 is going to be divided by 3 to equal 8. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to do the inverse of the division, right? So we're going to multiply it by 3. So multiply it by 3. Do it to both sides. And we get, we're moving over here, this cancels, and it gives me v plus 9 equals 24. So this is where we're at. V plus 9 equals 24. Then we do the inverse of addition, which is subtraction, and we get a 0 here, so it's plus 0. And 24 minus 9 equals 15. So v equals 15. Okay, so these aren't too difficult. You just kind of got to remember your inverse operations, right? Your inverse operations. The next one, we're going to add in something that you're probably familiar with, that you've seen before, but it's the distributive property. Don't forget, guys, to make sure you guys are writing at least two questions for me here, and a good summary of the notes. So next essential question, how do I solve equations that contain multiple steps? Okay, so the distributive property is one of my favorite properties, to be honest, because I like to do like little rainbows with my distributing multiplication. And then we're going to combine like terms. Let me use a highlighter. We're going to combine any like terms, and we're going to do inverse operations, right? So distributive property, combine like terms, and inverse operations. So let's look at this guy. I love the distributive property because I like to think that this guy is like a little, I don't know, tank, just so we got 2x plus 10, right? Because we're multiplying. So 2 times x equals 2x. 2 times 5 equals 10. So we've done that. Now it's just a two-step equation, right? We're just going to subtract 10. We're going to do the inverse. of addition, which is subtraction, so that gives me 0, right? 10 minus 10 is 0. Did it to one side, I have to do it to the other. So we have negative 10 minus negative 10, right? So if you owe someone 10 bucks, then you borrow 10 more bucks, now you owe them 20 bucks. So we get negative 20. So now what we're left with is 2x equals negative 20. Well, we do the inverse of multiplication, because this is multiplication, remember, which is division, so we divide both sides. So we get x equals a negative divided by a positive is going to give us a negative, right? So x is going to equal negative 10, okay? All those steps are written outside on the right, okay, but I just kind of discussed them with you guys quickly. That is it for this lesson. Of course, bring any questions you guys have about this to class, and we will discuss it in class. Don't forget your guys' 2 questions and your summary. Now, I had a lot of students asking me, do you have to write on this template? Absolutely not. You can write it in a notebook, or you can write it on like a regular sheet of paper. Just take a picture of it. Just make sure you have a summary and your questions on there as well. You can also use the template and just write on it like I did. All right, awesome. I'll see you guys in class next week.